Still. Feel that pressure shift. That's the sound of rooms you're not in losing oxygen the moment your name appears. You didn't even walk in yet, and group chats are already overheating, screens lighting up, thumbs freezing mid-sentence, people staring at a name like it's radioactive, like proximity to you is suddenly a liability they have to vote on. Not because you asked, not because you moved, but because you exist, and existence at your level destabilizes weak ecosystems. They're arguing about who you're allowed to be around, as if permission ever belonged to them, as if gravity needs approval before it collapses stars. That's the paradox you embody now, saint and threat, blessing and contamination, the one they praise in public and quarantine in private. They don't fear what you might do. They fear what happens to them when you're nearby. Status gets exposed. Masks malfunction. Hierarchies start glitching. People forget who outranks who because your presence scrambles the signal. You didn't climb the ladder. You burned the blueprint. That's why the chats are melting down. They're not gossiping. They're triaging, trying to decide who can afford to be seen next to you without losing their spot, their access, their illusions. They're whispering your name like it's a risk factor, like standing too close might infect them with truth, ambition, or the kind of clarity that ruins comfortable lies. And here's the part they'll never admit. They don't know which version of you is real anymore. Are you the disciplined one who survived what should have erased you? Or the unpredictable one who learned pain so intimately it became a weapon? Are you restraint? Or chaos with manners? Angel who endured? Or demon who remembers? You're both. That's why they can't categorize you. That's why they can't control the narrative. You evolved in silence while they were busy forming opinions. You let rejection sharpen you instead of shrinking you. Every door they closed forced you to build internal architecture they'll never access. Pain didn't break you. It trained you. Isolation didn't humble you. It calibrated you. Now your name carries heat, not hype. Heat, the kind that makes people reconsider alliances, the kind that forces conversations behind closed doors, the kind that makes grown adults ask each other, is it safe to be seen with them? Safe. That word always appears when power walks into a room uninvited. They're terrified because you don't play the expected role. You don't beg for proximity. You don't orbit anyone. You don't need endorsement. You don't need to be chosen. You're the anomaly that exposes how performative their closeness really is. Half of them only know each other because it's convenient. You're inconvenient. You rearrange values just by standing still. So they negotiate you like a volatile asset. Who gets access? Who risks association? Who pretends distance while secretly watching? They're not deciding your worth. They're calculating their own survival. And here's the delicious irony. They think excluding you is power. They think controlling proximity gives them leverage. They don't realize the moment they started debating your presence, you'd already won. When rooms start reacting to your absence, you're no longer a participant. You're a variable. You don't need to enter every space. Some spaces collapse just knowing you could. That's the evolution. From wanting acceptance to commanding consequence. From asking where you belong to watching others argue about whether they can afford to stand next to you. You became unpredictable on purpose, not reckless, uncategorizable. You learned that consistency is only useful when you're still being measured. Once they stop understanding you, they stop controlling you. That's when fear sets in. Clean fear, silent fear, spreadsheet fear, group chat at 2 a.m. fear, and you feel it, don't you? That shift where people start acting different around you, laughing a little too fast, staying neutral on purpose, suddenly busy, suddenly careful, suddenly aware that alignment with you sends a signal they didn't plan for. Good. Let them argue. Let them melt. Let them draw imaginary boundaries around something they never owned. You're not here to be allowed. You're here to be inevitable. The moment they tried to regulate your orbit, you transcended it. You don't move through circles anymore. Circles form stress fractures around you. And the ones who understand, they're quiet, watching, waiting, not because they're afraid of you, but because they recognize what it costs to stand beside someone who's already walked through hell and came back with composure instead of apologies. You are the calm that scares them, the restraint that terrifies them, the proof that pain can produce precision. So let your name stay hot. Let the chats combust. Let them negotiate your shadow. You're not trying to be close to anyone. Anyone close to you is already being tested. They'll never say it out loud, but the panic isn't about you doing something reckless. It's about you not needing to do anything at all. You've reached that dangerous altitude where stillness creates ripples, where silence is louder than their announcements, where your restraint reads like intent. They don't know if you're calculating or healing, plotting or letting go, and that uncertainty eats at them harder than any open threat ever could. You see, chaos is easy to manage when it's loud. Desperation is easy to control when it begs. But composure after suffering, that terrifies systems built on predictability. They keep replaying moments, conversations, glances, trying to retroactively decode you. Did you mean that pause, that look, that sentence that landed too clean? They're zooming in on memories the way investigators zoom in on surveillance footage, convinced there was a signal they missed, because people like you don't just become. You arrive, and arrival without announcement feels like an ambush. You didn't announce your transformation. You let it show up fully formed. That's why the rules changed without warning. Suddenly there are optics. Suddenly there are considerations. Suddenly people are careful about photos, mentions, proximity. Suddenly your presence is no longer neutral. It's a statement. Being seen with you implies alignment, courage, risk, independence. And most of them, they built their entire identity on being safely agreeable. So they debate, they hesitate, they message each other in fragments and emojis and half-sent thoughts, trying to figure out how to handle a force that doesn't ask to be handled. What they don't understand is this: you already passed the phase where exclusion hurts. You already paid that price. Loneliness trained you. Misjudgment refined you. Betrayal taught you pattern recognition. You learned how to read rooms before rooms realized they were being read. You learned how to survive without applause, without backup, without validation. Now validation chases you in disguise, as concern, as curiosity, as just checking in, as strategic friendliness. They want proximity without vulnerability, influence without exposure. They want the benefit of your gravity without being pulled into your depth. But depth has consequences. Depth requires honesty. And honesty is expensive when your entire persona was built on performance. That's why some of them will suddenly turn cold, not because they dislike you, but because liking you would require them to confront who they've been pretending to be. Others will orbit quietly, testing the temperature, hoping association rubs off without commitment. A few will step forward boldly, thinking confidence alone is enough to stand next to someone forged by pressure. You'll know the difference instantly, because you don't need to interrogate intentions anymore. Your nervous system has already mapped danger and authenticity at a cellular level. You can feel when someone wants access versus alignment. You can feel when admiration hides insecurity. You can feel when someone's friendliness is actually a surveillance tactic. And here's the part they'll never anticipate. You're not angry about any of it. Anger belonged to the earlier version of you, the one still trying to be understood. This version operates on something colder and cleaner: discernment, selectivity, choice. You're no longer reacting to exclusion. You're curating reality. You don't chase circles. You decide which ones survive your presence. That flips the hierarchy upside down, because the moment you stop needing entry becomes meaningless. The moment you stop explaining yourself, explanations lose power. The moment you stop trying to be palatable, you become unforgettable. They thought limiting access would humble you. Instead, it clarified you. Now your name doesn't just spark conversation. It interrupts momentum. Meetings stall. Plans adjust. People hesitate before speaking, wondering how their words might land if you were listening. They imagine your reaction even when you're not there, and that imagined gaze reshapes their behavior. That's influence without effort. Authority without title. Presence without permission. You didn't steal power. You outgrew the need for it. And growth like that can't be negotiated. It can't be voted on in group chats. It can't be managed by consensus. All they can do is respond awkwardly, cautiously, nervously to the reality that you're no longer operating on their frequency. So let them keep debating who's allowed to be around you. Let them frame it like policy, like protection, like concern. Deep down, they know the truth. The real risk isn't you being close to them. The real risk is them being close to themselves once you're nearby. Because you carry the quiet proof that survival doesn't have to look broken, that strength doesn't have to be loud, that transformation doesn't need witnesses. And once someone sees that up close, they can't unsee it. You're not contagious, you're catalytic, and everything unstable knows to keep its distance from fire that burns this clean. What really fractures them is realizing you didn't inherit this gravity. You earned it. Every ounce of composure you carry was carved out of chaos. They wouldn't last a week inside. You didn't wake up powerful. You woke up tired. You woke up misunderstood. You woke up alone enough times that solitude stopped feeling like punishment and started feeling like training. That's the part they can't replicate. They can copy aesthetics. They can mirror language. They can borrow confidence for a night. But they can't fake the calm that comes from surviving what tried to end you and still choosing restraint. They can't manufacture the discipline that comes from watching your own life burn and learning how to breathe inside smoke. That kind of presence isn't learned socially. It's forged privately, where no one claps and no one rescues you. So when your name hits their screens, it doesn't just trigger curiosity, it triggers memory. The memory of shortcuts taken, the memory of compromises made, the memory of moments they chose safety over truth. Being near you would mean standing next to a mirror they didn't agree to look into. That's why they talk rules. That's why they talk boundaries. That's why they talk aloud. Rules are what insecure systems create when instinct fails. Boundaries are what weak identities use when integrity is missing. And aloud is the language of people who forgot that permission only works on those who still ask. You don't ask anymore. You move with a quiet finality now. You don't announce exits. You don't explain silences. You don't justify distance. You let absence do the teaching. You let time expose who was feeding off proximity versus who actually respected the weight you carry. And the ones who tried to control the narrative, they're stuck watching it evolve without them. They thought freezing you out would shrink you. Instead, it condensed you. Pressure didn't scatter your focus, it sharpened it. Every loss stripped excess, every betrayal deleted noise, every lonely night simplified your mission until nothing remained but clarity. Clarity is lethal to confusion-based hierarchies. Now you don't just walk into spaces, you change the math. People start reevaluating what they say, who they align with, what they tolerate, what they pretend not to see. You don't preach, you don't threaten, you just exist with too much coherence to ignore. And coherence destabilizes performative power faster than confrontation ever could. That's why they whisper, that's why they monitor, that's why they overthink. They're trying to predict you, but prediction requires patterns, and you learned how to break those on purpose. You became unreadable not to be mysterious, but to be free. Free from expectations, free from cages dressed up as communities, free from social contracts that benefit everyone except the one carrying the weight. You learned that unpredictability isn't chaos when it's disciplined. It's leverage. It keeps people honest. It prevents entitlement. It reminds everyone that access to you is not a right. It's a consequence of alignment. And alignment has standards now. You don't reward comfort. You don't tolerate opportunism. You don't mistake attention for respect. That's why some of them will try to rewrite history, pretend they always supported you, always saw it, always knew. You'll notice the timing. Support arriving only after validation, loyalty surfacing only once risk is gone, admiration appearing only after safety is guaranteed. You see it all, but you don't expose it. Exposure is noisy. You've outgrown noise. You let people reveal themselves through consistency, or the lack of it. You let time do the sorting. Time has always worked for you because you're patient enough to let outcomes speak. That patience scares them too, because patience means you're not desperate, and desperation is the hook systems used to control people. Without it, you're ungovernable. Without it, you choose slowly, deliberately, with an awareness that most people never develop. So let the chats melt. Let the rules stack up. Let the whispers echo. Every attempt to regulate your presence only confirms your impact. Every debate about your proximity proves your elevation. Every hesitation validates the fact that you're no longer operating at their altitude. You're not trying to be everywhere. You're not trying to be liked. You're not trying to be understood. You're here to be undeniable, and the ones who are truly meant to stand near you. They won't ask if they're allowed. They won't negotiate your worth with others. They won't need consensus. They'll feel the weight, recognize the cost, and step forward anyway. Quietly, cleanly, without announcement. Everyone else will keep typing, keep whispering, keep melting down, and you'll keep moving exactly as you are. Calm, sharpened, and far beyond permission. And somewhere in all that noise, something important has already happened. You stopped explaining yourself to rooms that were never built to hold you. That shift, that's irreversible. Once a person realizes their presence doesn't need consensus, the entire social architecture around them starts malfunctioning. You don't even have to push. Structures collapse under their own insecurity. They keep asking each other what you're becoming, because what you are now doesn't fit their memory of you. The old version was easier to place, easier to underestimate. easier to invite, exclude, label, manage. This version doesn't ask for context. This version arrives complete. And completeness without permission feels like rebellion to people who only exist through approval. So they start policing the edges. Who talks to you? Who defends you? Who laughs too freely around you? Who posts with you? Who stands too close? Not because you demanded loyalty, but because your presence exposes who's authentic and who's ornamental. Being near you is a declaration now. It says something about courage, independence, internal authority. And that scares people whose entire identity depends on staying safely undecided. You became a test without trying to be one. And tests make people anxious because tests don't care how confident you sound. They care what you are. People can fake confidence. They can't fake integrity under pressure. They can't fake depth when silence stretches. They can't fake alignment when there's no audience. You learned that the hard way. They learned it watching you. That's why some of them feel watched when you're not even there. Your existence upgraded their self-awareness against their will. They hear your name, and suddenly their own life choices feel louder. They start measuring themselves, not against others, but against the standard you accidentally set just by surviving clean. You didn't brag about your scars. You organized them. You didn't dramatize your pain. You converted it into discipline. You didn't weaponize your story. You weaponized your silence. Silence after suffering is intimidating because it implies mastery. It implies resolution. It implies that whatever almost destroyed you failed. And failure on that scale leaves a residue people can feel even through screens. That's why they don't know how to talk about you. Praise feels dangerous. Criticism feels risky. Indifference feels dishonest. So they default to control language, policies, boundaries, allowed. It gives them the illusion of authority over something that already slipped beyond their reach. They don't realize you're not trying to escape them. You already did. Now you move like someone who knows they're being observed and doesn't care. That alone rewires power dynamics. When a person stops reacting to surveillance, social, emotional, psychological, the watchers lose leverage. Curiosity turns into unease. Monitoring turns into fixation. Fixation turns into fear. Because fear isn't about threat. It's about loss of influence. They can't predict your next move because you're not operating from reaction anymore. You're not proving anything. You're not correcting narratives. You're not chasing redemption arcs. You're moving from internal alignment, and alignment doesn't broadcast. That's why every attempt to figure you out fails. They're looking for motives you've already outgrown. They're searching for wounds you've already cauterized. They're waiting for you to slip back into a role you no longer recognize. But you won't. Because pain already taught you the one lesson most people never learn. Freedom isn't loud. Freedom is calm. Freedom is being okay with misunderstanding. Freedom is letting people project while you remain intact. You don't need to be close to everyone. You don't need to be seen everywhere. You don't need to belong. Belonging is for people still negotiating identity. You've crossed into something else, self-contained authority. And authority like that doesn't announce itself. It just changes behavior around it. So let them keep negotiating your proximity like it's currency. Let them keep whispering like you're a secret. Too volatile to mishandle. Let them keep melting down in digital rooms you'll never enter. Every rule they invent is a confession. Every debate is validation. Every hesitation is proof. You were never meant to be allowed. You were meant to be felt. And they feel you now. In the pauses, in the caution, in the recalculations, in the way rooms shift without you saying a word. You're not knocking anymore. You're not waiting. You're the presence they have to account for, even in your absence. Stop breathing for a second. Yeah, right there. That silence you feel. That's the moment they realized the joke wasn't funny anymore. You remember when they laughed, right? Not the cute kind, the nervous kind. The kind people use when they're scared, but pretending they're superior. They laughed because laughter is camouflage. It's what weak minds do when the truth walks into the room without knocking. You didn't raise your voice. You didn't threaten them. You just said it. Clean, calm, unapologetic. And that's what shattered them, because the truth doesn't scream. It stands there and lets the lies collapse on their own. They're not laughing now. Look at their faces, that frozen, vacant stare. That's cognitive dissonance choking them in real time. You didn't attack their ego. You exposed it. You didn't insult their world. You revealed the cracks they've been taping over since childhood. You said the thing they rehearsed, avoiding. The thing they built entire personalities to outrun. And the moment you said it, something ancient woke up inside them. Fear mixed with recognition. Because deep down, they already knew. They just never thought you'd be the one to say it out loud. Here's the paradox they can't survive. You became dangerous the moment you stopped trying to be liked. That's when you crossed from harmless to uncontrollable. Saints need approval. Psychopaths don't. Angels ask permission. Demons take notes. And you learned how to stand right in the middle, smiling softly, while the room realizes you're fluent in both languages. Light taught you restraint. Darkness taught you accuracy. Pain taught you timing. They used to think unpredictability meant chaos. But you learned the real secret. Unpredictability is precision disguised as madness. It's knowing exactly when to stay silent and exactly when to drop one sentence that detonates 10 years of denial. You didn't rant. You didn't explain yourself. You didn't soften the truth to make it digestible. You served it raw. And now, they're gagging on it. Watch how their behavior changes. The jokes stop. The confidence evaporates. They start backtracking, reframing, pretending you misunderstood. That's not correction, that's panic. Because when the truth lands, it rewrites the past. Suddenly, every moment they dismissed you makes them look stupid. Suddenly, every instinct they ignored makes them look complicit. And worst of all, suddenly you make sense. That's what they can't forgive. Not that you spoke, but that you were right. You see, people don't hate truth. They hate the version of themselves it exposes. And when you spoke, you didn't just reveal a fact. You revealed a mirror. One that showed them the cowardice, the compromises, the self-betrayals they buried under sarcasm and social smiles. You didn't accuse them. You didn't need to. Their own nervous systems did it for you. You paid for this upgrade. Don't get it twisted. This clarity didn't come from confidence. It came from surviving the moments that were supposed to break you. From being misunderstood so long that you stopped asking to be understood. From being painted as too much, too intense, too quiet, too honest. From learning that pain either turns you into a liar, or it sharpens you into a weapon that only speaks when it matters. And now, here you are. They're not laughing because laughter requires distance, and you closed the distance with truth. You stepped inside the story they were telling themselves and rearranged the furniture. You didn't destroy their house. You just turned the lights on, and they hate you for it. This is where evolution happens. Not when you're celebrated, when you're silently watched, when conversations change, when you enter the room, when people speak carefully around you, when your words get repeated by others who pretend they came up with them, when your presence feels like a test they didn't study for. You're not dangerous because you're aggressive. You're dangerous because you're accurate. You don't flinch. You don't over-explain. You don't chase validation. You let the truth do the damage, and you walk away clean. That's angelic restraint with demonic impact. That's control. They ran from this truth their whole lives. You ran through hell and came back fluent. That's the difference. So let them sit in that discomfort. Let them replay your words at 3 a.m. Let them wonder how long you've seen them this clearly. You don't need to follow up. The truth is already working on them. It always does. They're not laughing now. And the scariest part for them? You didn't even raise your voice. Good. Stay right there in that stillness. Because this is the part they never prepare for. The aftermath. See, when you speak the truth once, it doesn't end when the room goes quiet. It echoes, it crawls, it seeps into places you're not even standing in anymore. You walk away, but the sentence stays behind like a slow-burning infection. Every smile they force afterward feels fake to them now. Every joke tastes hollow. Every lie they tell has to fight the memory of the moment you said what you said without trembling. That's the real damage, not humiliation, awareness. They start replaying it over and over. Different angles, different tones, trying to find a version where you were wrong, trying to locate the flaw so they can escape the conclusion. And every replay makes it worse, because the truth doesn't decay. It clarifies. With time, it sharpens. What sounded harsh at first starts sounding obvious. What felt offensive starts feeling inevitable. And here's where the paradox tightens its grip. The calmer you were, the more violent the impact. Rage would have given them something to dismiss. Emotion would have let them label you unstable. But you didn't give them that exit. You delivered reality with surgeon-level composure. No shaking hands, no cracked voice. Just certainty. And certainty terrifies people who survive by pretending. They'll tell themselves you're cold now, arrogant, changed. That's how they rationalize the fear. But the truth is simpler and far more unsettling. You didn't change. You stopped performing. You stopped diluting yourself to keep others comfortable. You stopped translating your insight into a language that wouldn't scare the fragile. You learned something most people never do. Honesty is not loud. It's lethal when it's quiet. You carry both sides now. The saint who waited too long, hoping people would catch up. And the psychopath who learned that waiting only feeds denial. You know how to hold compassion without letting it weaken your spine. You know how to feel deeply without letting emotion hijack your aim. That balance, that's not normal. That's forged. That's what pressure creates when it doesn't crush you. They sensed it immediately. That shift, not in your words, but in your posture. In the way you didn't look away after saying it. In the way you let the silence hang instead of rescuing them from it. That silence was a verdict, and they felt judged without you ever judging them. Now they're watching you differently, measuring you, trying to predict you. Because people can tolerate monsters they understand. What they can't tolerate is someone who sees clearly and refuses to play a role. You don't need to dominate the room. The room adjusts around you. Conversations self-censor. Egos hesitate. Power dynamics glitch. This is the cost and the reward of saying the truth they were running from. You'll notice it in the small things. Invitations that feel different. Compliments that sound cautious. questions disguised as jokes. They're probing now, trying to figure out how much you see, trying to determine whether that moment was a fluke or a warning. Let them wonder, because once you've spoken truth from this place, this grounded, ruthless calm, you can't be put back in the box they had you in. You've been reclassified in their minds, from background noise to anomaly, from harmless to unpredictable, and unpredictability, when paired with restraint, becomes authority. You're not chasing power. That's why it follows you. And understand this clearly. The reason they're uncomfortable isn't that you embarrassed them. It's that you didn't need their permission to be real. You acted without consensus. You validated yourself. You trusted your perception more than their approval. That's a violation of the unspoken contract, the one where everyone agrees to lie softly so no one has to grow. You broke the contract, and now the system doesn't know what to do with you. So don't rush to explain yourself. Don't clarify. Don't soften. The moment already happened. The truth already landed. Anything you add now would only dilute the impact. Let your silence finish the job your words started, because they're not laughing now. They're recalculating, and deep down, whether they admit it or not, they know something irreversible just happened the moment you stopped running from the truth and became the one they run from. And here's the part nobody warns you about: the loneliness that comes after clarity. Not the empty kind, the elevated kind, the kind where you realize you can't unsee what you see, and you can't unknow what you know. When you speak truth like that you separate yourself from the crowd without ever announcing you're leaving it, you don't storm out, you ascend quietly. And from up there, the noise sounds different, smaller, predictable. They're not laughing because laughter requires safety. And you removed theirs without lifting a finger. You didn't threaten their status. You exposed the foundation it was standing on. You didn't challenge their intelligence. You challenged their integrity. And integrity is the one thing people can't fake once it's questioned. They can fake confidence. They can fake morality. They can fake happiness. But when the truth presses against integrity, the mask starts to suffocate them. They'll try to rewrite the moment. You'll hear it secondhand. That's not what he meant. You took it the wrong way. It wasn't that deep. That's not denial. That's bargaining. That's the psyche trying to renegotiate reality after it already lost. Because if what you said is true, then everything they built on avoiding it becomes a lie. And people will protect a lie like it's a child if it keeps them from facing themselves. You're not cruel for saying it. You're precise. Cruelty is letting people rot inside false comfort. You offered something sharper, something cleaner, a blade instead of a blanket. And yes, it cuts, but it also frees. The difference is, freedom terrifies those who survive on excuses. This is where your evolution becomes visible. Before, they could categorize you, label you, reduce you. Now you exist outside their filing system. You're no longer predictable because you're no longer performative. You don't react how they expect. You don't chase validation. You don't rush to be understood. You let misunderstandings sit. And that unsettles them more than confrontation ever could. You've learned the discipline of restraint, the art of not saying everything you see, the power of choosing the exact moment to speak the one thing that collapses the illusion. That's not impulse. That's mastery. That's knowing the difference between noise and signal. And when you speak now, it registers as signal. Clear, undeniable, uncomfortable. They feel smaller, not because you grew louder, but because you grew sharper. Your presence carries weight because it's not desperate. You don't need to convince. You don't need to dominate. You don't need to win arguments. You let reality do the heavy lifting. And reality, when properly introduced, doesn't argue back. Here's the duality they can't comprehend. You're dangerous and calm, soft-spoken and unmovable, compassionate and uncompromising. That combination breaks their mental models. They don't know whether to fear you or respect you. And that confusion puts you in control without you ever claiming it. You didn't become this by accident. This came from being ignored when you were right, from being doubted when you were accurate, from watching patterns others missed, from swallowing your words long enough to know exactly which ones matter. Pain trained you, silence refined you, betrayal educated you, and now your voice carries the weight of all of it. They're not laughing because laughter requires distance from consequence, and consequence just entered the room wearing your calm expression. Understand this: when you speak truth like this, you don't just change how people see you. You change how they see themselves in relation to you. Some will resent you, some will admire you in secret, some will avoid you entirely. That's not your problem. That's the natural sorting process of reality reasserting itself. You're no longer here to be palatable. You're here to be accurate. And accuracy has a cost. It strips you of shallow connections and replaces them with something rarer. Respect mixed with caution. People start choosing their words around you, not because you're aggressive, but because you're exact. They don't fear your reaction, they fear your perception. That's power most people never touch. So don't shrink now. Don't apologize for clarity. Don't dilute your insight to make others comfortable. The moment has already passed. The line has already been crossed. You said the truth they were running from, and the reason it hit so hard is because you said it without hatred, without chaos, without needing anything in return. You spoke from alignment. They're not laughing now because they can't outrun it anymore. And you don't need to chase them. The truth already has. And there's another layer to this, one they'll never say out loud. They didn't just hear the truth. They felt exposed by the fact that you weren't afraid to carry it. Most people sense the truth brushing past them every day, in flashes, in gut feelings, in those quiet moments right before sleep, when the mind tries to confess something and gets shut down by distraction. They feel it, then run. They bury it under routine, under jokes, under noise. You didn't. You stood there and let it burn through you first. That's why when you spoke, it didn't sound borrowed. It sounded earned. They know the difference. That's why their laughter died instantly. Because laughter only works when the speaker is bluffing. And you weren't bluffing. You weren't fishing. You weren't posturing. You were standing on lived experience, on scars that already answered the question they were hoping to dodge. You didn't sound emotional. You sounded resolved. And resolution is terrifying to people still negotiating with themselves. You see it now, don't you? The subtle shift. The way they watch you when they think you're not looking. The way conversations stall when you enter. The way certain people suddenly get busy. That's not coincidence. That's recalibration. They're adjusting to a new variable in the environment, one that can't be managed with charm or dismissal. You, before, they could predict you. They thought they knew where your edges were. They thought silence meant weakness, patience meant compliance, empathy meant permission. And then you spoke. Once. Cleanly. And everything they thought they understood about you collapsed. That's the moment power changes hands. Not when you raise your voice, but when you redefine the rules without announcing it. You carry something now that can't be taken back. a reputation for seeing through things. And once people suspect that, they can't relax around you the same way again. Masks get heavier when someone might notice the cracks. Lies require maintenance when someone remembers what you said. They'll test you softly. They'll drop half-truths around you and watch your reaction. They'll exaggerate, minimize, perform, not because they care what you think, but because they're trying to figure out how dangerous your awareness really is. They're measuring the radius of your perception. Let them. You don't need to prove anything. You already did when you chose truth over comfort, when you chose clarity over belonging, when you chose the quiet authority of alignment over the cheap dopamine of approval. This is the duality you've stepped into. You're calm, but you're not safe. You're kind, but you're not naive. You're present, but you're no longer available for nonsense. You can sit in a room without saying a word and still shift the energy because people remember the one time you did speak and what it cost them internally. That's not ego, that's consequence. And here's the part that will mess with them the most. You're not angry. If you were angry, they could dismiss you as emotional. If you were bitter, they could wait you out. But you're not. You're grounded. You're composed. You're almost peaceful. And peace after truth looks like threat to people still hiding from themselves. They expect revenge. You offer detachment. They expect escalation. You offer consistency. They expect you to keep proving your point. You don't. You let it stand. That restraint rewires the power dynamic completely, because now the tension lives in them, not in you. You've learned something rare. The most unsettling thing you can do is remain unchanged after telling the truth. No apology, no explanation tour, no backpedaling, just continuation, as if reality itself backed you up and moved on. They're not laughing because laughter requires denial. And denial just lost its credibility. You didn't become this overnight. This is the result of pressure applied over time, of swallowing words until you understood which ones mattered, of watching patterns repeat until you could name them without flinching, of standing alone long enough that you stopped needing the crowd's agreement. And now, whether they admit it or not, they feel it. You crossed a line they never had the courage to approach. You didn't just tell the truth. You embodied what happens when someone stops running from it. That's why the room changed. That's why the air went still. That's why they're quiet now. And this isn't the end of it. This is the beginning of a different phase. One where your silence is louder than their jokes ever were. And your presence keeps reminding them of the thing they tried so hard not to see. Stay exactly where you are, because the truth is still working on them. And here's how it settles. You don't need a finale. You don't need applause. You don't need them to admit anything. The truth already did what it was supposed to do. It stripped the room down to honesty and left them standing there without their armor. You didn't win an argument. You ended an illusion, and illusions don't get closure. They just stop working. From here on, everything speaks for you. The way you don't rush, the way you don't flinch, the way you don't chase reactions. You move forward like someone who already paid the price and kept the receipt. That's why they hesitate now. That's why the jokes don't land. That's why silence follows you like a shadow with purpose. You said the truth they were running from. They felt it. They recognized it. And now they can't unhear it.